It's time again for some more of the story. And this one, Atheistic Materialism, is destroyed by a fluffy cat in 2023. In this video, I'm going to talk about a subject that was brought up by another atheist that I was debating. And in fact, it's also brought up because I ran across another video clip that went along with the series I had just completed on the nature of reality, and it's a brand new video from an Australian astrophysicist named Matt O'Dowd, and it was recorded on January 18th, 2023. So I'm going to call this entire video called Random Universe Land. And so without further ado, let's watch the little video clip.
Cats are curious and fluffy. They're also made of cells that are made of molecules, that are made of atoms, that are made of particles, that are made of quantum fields. But quantum fields are neither curious nor fluffy. They have no subjective qualities and have questionable physicality. They seem to be completely describable by only numbers and their behaviour precisely defined by equations. In this sense, the quantum world is made of math. So does that mean cats are made of math too? If you believe the mathematical universe hypothesis, then yes. And so are you. In his essay, The Unreasonable Effectiveness of Mathematics, the physicist Eugene Wigner said that the enormous usefulness of mathematics in the natural sciences is something bordering on the mysterious. This statement was inspired by the observation that so many aspects of the physical world seem to be describable and predictable by mathematical equations to incredible precision. The idea that the universe is in some sense mathematical is thousands of years old. Pythagoras taught that all things are made of numbers. Plato had some notions too, which I'll come back to, but it was the program of reductionism of modern physics that really inspired Wigner's statement. One by one, the seemingly disparate theories in physics were revealed to be special cases of more elegant underlying mathematical laws, until we were left with only two equations describing all of nature: the Lagrangian of the standard model of particle physics, and Einstein's field equations of general relativity. All the incredible complexity that we see in the universe, from biology to human culture, appears to ultimately emerge from matter, space and time as numerical quantities obeying these equations. So, if we can describe baseline reality in purely mathematical terms, can we take this one step further? What if we say that the universe isn't just described by mathematics, but in a more fundamental way, it actually is mathematics? This is the proposal of MIT cosmologist Max Tegmark. He calls it the mathematical universe hypothesis. It states that our external physical reality is a mathematical structure.
So while debating an atheist, I was asking the question, why does anything exist at all? So my contention at the time was something like this: for anything to exist at all, there must be in the past, to even have a past, an uncaused cause, or a prime mover, or what we call the first cause. And they've been debating this for centuries. Otherwise nothing would exist at all. So that night, though, while thinking about the statement, I had an epiphany. Previous to this conversation that I had, again, like I said, I had produced a series on the nature of reality, and in the series it became increasingly evident that our universe, at its most fundamental level, was not only based on quantum fields of energy, but also on information. And that was startling to me, that the physics world is talking about how the universe itself, all the way down to the quantum level, is based on information. In other words, our reality is not based on stuff or matter, as previously believed by virtually, literally, every realm of science since the beginning of time. For modern man, though, to find out his reality is not matter-based, but instead reliant on quantum fields, well, it's a startling admission, and it's a very huge conundrum for them. We are conscious beings made of fundamental particles, yet below the composite particles lies what they say in physics 24 unknown fields of force that make up those particles. Well, where, pray tell, do these forces emerge from? And what constitutes a quantum field? Furthermore, and even more astounding, these fields of force are actually grounded in some kind of a computational, informational, structural background, of which we again are basically clueless of where it comes from. Math by itself is merely a conceptual construct. And if modern, atheistic, materialistic only, evolutionistic science to date is supposed to be believed, we owe our existence to a set of purely random happenstances. Well, first, there's this wonderful thing they say is the multiverse. Then, all life on this planet is a product of nothing but random colliding molecules. But what do we find actually in 2023? What we find is just the opposite. Information is prime, front and center, and describes our place in the cosmos with uncanny precision. From Newton's laws of motion that take us to the moon, down to the quantum level of reality, our ability to describe our three-dimensional reality with exacting, and I mean exacting, mathematical precision and clarity, that's absolutely astounding. That's astounding, especially for a supposedly randomly generated plane of existence. Furthermore, those mathematical descriptions, especially of the beginning of the universe, well, they shed some light on an astounding confirmation of something I used to believe was impossible. That was kind of my epiphany. Well, what is that, you might ask? Well, it's the mathematical size of the universe at the very moment of creation. Okay, so let's watch this little video.
The leading theory regarding the beginning of the universe is the Big Bang Theory. And without going into all the complicated details, I'll summarize it like this. About 13.7 billion years ago, everything that is in the universe today was crammed together into a space the effective size of 0.
In the video, it talks about how, of course, that the universe existed in a spatial volume of 0. And I used to adamantly rail against that idea based on my indoctrinated, and I'll say that, indoctrinated belief in matter. I, too, I'm a product of the American educational system, and my traversal of that system from kindergarten through college convinced me of the illogical nature of such a claim that all of the universe could fit into the size of 0. My reasoning went, are you seriously suggesting that the universe existed, all of the matter could fit into a spatial volume of 0, and then grow to a size much larger than the observable universe in a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second? That's Andre Lent and Alan Guth. I thought, that's whole enterprise, that's suspect. That's fraught with illogical inconsistencies, too numerous to categorize, until I had a moment in my flash. I had a moment where this seemingly impossible situation could possibly be true. In fact, it's true, but it's not true the way it's presented to you. But we'll get to that. So I hope by now I've piqued your interest, and I hope you'll share with me the awesome realization of just how an entire universe of matter could basically exist in nothing first. But again, I'm saying in actuality, that's not really true. And then this universe being crammed into an actual space of nothing violates the speed of light in the most outrageous way. And they say, again, that it expanded to a size in an instant, to a size of 90 billion bigger than, much larger than a 90 billion light years across in a fraction of a blink of an eye. In fact, the entire scientific enterprise appears to be mistaken on this point. And why? Well, let's go back to my educational indoctrination. So in the Western mind, matter is all that really matters. Everything else has been relegated to an afterthought or a byproduct or a sideshow of some of our material existence. Yet it turns out that matter is actually the afterthought. And I use that phrase intentionally. It is the afterthought of our existence. Matter is a product of something more fundamental and a modern-day mystery. Our reality at the quantum level is made up of quantum fields. Quantum fields are said to be made up of 24 fundamental forces or strings or fluctuating fields of energy. While descriptive words all, they absolutely lack the conveyance of any meaningful information, period. What's a quantum field? We don't know. What's energy? We don't know. What are strings of energy? We don't know. What are fluctuating fields of force or energy? Again, we don't know. Well, where do they come from? Once again, we don't know. Not only do we lack any understanding of their real true essence, we are even more perplexed at the origin and apparent perpetual sustaining nature of these energy fields. Where do these lines of force come from? And why does my office desk remain a desk? If my existence, according to the acquired academic knowledge, is wrapped in a virtual sea of randomness, why do these fields of force only generate my desk each and every time I use it? If I place a camera in my office and I keep a watchful eye on my desk, well, how come it never blips into a giraffe or into a coaster for my coffee? And that's, you'll see later on, I have a clip, another video clip coming up, and it'll show in that video something more substantial about these fluctuating fields of force. And the way they talk about it, they're just random fluctuating fields of force. They have no brain, they have no direction, etc. But I disagree with that, and you'll see why in a moment. So, if my supposed existence is a product of blind, unguided, undirected forces, and at base reality it's nothing but 24 blind fields of fluctuating energy popping into and out of existence on a whim, what's the probability of those blind, unguided, undirected forces that they can continuously maintain, say, the wood of my desk? So why doesn't our reality morph into a continuous escapade of different objects, or at least the objects, become different substances? It's a wood desk now, it's a metal desk later, and then it's half wood, half metal later on, and then tonight it's marble. Well, after all that, I still have yet to divulge the main claim I made. Was when we started, I promised to explain how an entire universe could be crammed into a spatial volume of 0 and violate the speed of light by flinging an entire universe into empty space, by the way, much larger than 90 billion light years across in an instant. Well, if the answer hasn't presented itself to your mind, think of the essence of a force field. What is a force field? What are strings of energy? Or a light switch? Yeah, that's right. I said a light switch. In other words, before the light switch is engaged, no light actually exists. Before the universe actually existed, the light switch for the 24 forces were in the opposition. But just like the holodeck on the Starship Enterprise before the hologram program is turned on and running, doesn't exist except as programmed information stored in the storage media of the computer system used on the Enterprise, which brings up another point. Where is all this information stored? Max Tegmark said it was stored on a magic bound on 2D space somehow. Interesting. In one of my previous videos, which I'll leave in the description below. But what I want you to understand is, like the holodeck, say the holodeck's going to create a table. Now, when the light switch is turned on, the force fields, they create a force field of a table, so that when you sit down at the table, you believe, when you're in the holodeck, that it's a table. But it is directed and guided, and it's specifically set there. Just like my desk in my office. These are not random fluctuating forces in the sense that they want you to believe it is. No, these are guided fluctuating forces. In actual reality, before the fields of force are activated and switched on by whomever, they take up 0 spatial volume. So that means the universe doesn't exist. It's not crammed into a space of 0. It doesn't exist. In fact, as I just noted, until the energy is supplied, the universe is not here. It doesn't exist. Modern science itself has been duped by its own thoughts about the nature of reality, putting matter at the center of the universe as a whole. The universe then actually didn't exist before the fluctuating lines of 24 forces were engaged by whomever engaged them. Now, I know you're going to be quick to object to my use of the word whom. Of course, its connotation, it is, I infer intelligence, and that's correct. It follows logically that the universe is the product of a choice. A conscious choice is used to add energy and engage the force fields. And those force fields create my desk. Someone turned on the light switch, in fact. Furthermore, since the Earth and the Moon have maintained their orbit for, reported for about 4 billion years, It's a sure bet that they're going to remain so for the next 4 billion years. Of course, we don't know because we're already here, but still. What could possibly account for such a consistent duration if we supposedly live in random universe land? Modern, secular science actually holds the key. Let's watch this video.
Everything we see and experience today is just an unimaginably complex Russian doll of ever smaller particles nestled inside particles. Except it isn't. There is one final layer of reality to peel away. For it is by no means certain that particles even exist at all. It is simply not possible to capture a single electron or quark and hold it in your hand, or between minute quantum tweezers, because quantum field theory says it probably isn't there. It is little more than a transient peak in the quantum electrodynamic field, which will all too quickly flit away. From this perspective, the very concept of particles that fill the cosmos is a simplified quantization of expansive, ever-varying fields that are woven through the fabric of space and time. There are thought to be 24 separate quantum fields that permeate the universe. 12 for the various fundamental forces, including mass, 9 for the quarks, and 3 for the leptons. Like ripples from raindrops in a pond, the peaks and troughs of these independent fields interact and interfere with one another, creating semi-stable patterns and larger peaks whose effects propagate further than the tiny ripples that made them. These interference patterns come to define the larger composite particles, the protons, atoms, and molecules of our experience.
The leading theory regarding the beginning of the universe is the Big Bang Theory. And without going into all the complicated details, I'll summarize it like this. About 13.7 billion years ago, everything that is in the universe today was crammed together into a space the effective size of 0.
I mean, it's wonderful and mysterious why mathematics works so well to describe our universe at all. Our physical laws, the fact that they're accessible to us, and that some fundamental bits of mathematics actually describe our physical world, that's really remarkable. Like we're living in a bit of mathematics that's come to life.
We used to think it was utterly unimportant. We used to think information was just some sort of sideshow that statisticians liked that had very little to do with physics. And then, remarkably, information has started to crop up in area after area of physics in a very fundamental level.
We have this idea, at least in the Western philosophies, that what really is true of the universe, that fundamentally it's a bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of particles and energy, and it's real physical stuff. And the stuff can maybe represent information, but basically it's stuff. Well, maybe fundamentally it's not stuff, it's fundamentally information. And what we call stuff, like particles and electrons and protons, these are just manifestations of information structures. And the most fundamental aspect of the universe is information.
The particles don't exist. Our universe appeared much larger than 90 billion light years across from a spatial volume of 0. And information and computation are the foundations of our reality. Matter is the actual byproduct, but eternal mind is the rock we all stand on, and that's a fact. And God said, "Let there be." In Him, we live and move and have our being. He is the controlling, cohesive force of the universe. He is before all things, and without Him, nothing would exist. He stretches out the heavens like a tent for us to dwell in. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. He sustains all things. Jesus keeps the lights on. He actually activated the universe in the beginning, in a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second. He continues to stretch out the heavens like a tent for us to dwell in. He is the controlling, cohesive force of the universe, and He holds galaxy-sized objects together so that this planet we live on can be our home. And He continues to sustain all things. All of nature is fearfully and wonderfully made. All of us live and move and have our being in Him. Who says so? Modern science screams it at us. It's interesting, though, but our willingness to deny what is immensely evident is astonishing to me. That's the truth. Enough said. Have a blessed day. Bye.